Kia ora. My name is Catherine Leining, and I'm a policy fellow at Motu Economic and Public Policy Research in Wellington, New Zealand. This video provides an overview of the key design features of the New Zealand Emissions Trading Scheme. It's part of a series of videos that are being designed to help other jurisdictions learn from our experience. I'm going to cover how the ETS works, why New Zealand chose emissions trading, our national context, some key design features, and looking to the future. This diagram shows how our ETS will work starting from 2021. We are just entering a new phase of operation. Place to start is with supply. The government will be providing capped supply of units to the market. This will happen both through units issued by the government or through offset units that could come from international mechanisms or international emissions trading. The supply of units then enters the market, where units are traded and the market finds a price as the balance between supply and demand. We have three types of entities who are doing most of the trading activity. The first is the entities that are accountable for emissions and have to surrender units to the government. There are also entities that don't have unit obligations but receive free allocation to help them with the cost of adjusting to emissions pricing. And then there are producers who conduct forestry activities and remove emissions and who earn units. There's a flow of units and auction revenue to the government. And most importantly, the trading system generates a price signal which flows through to the cost of goods and services and helps to change behavior and reduce emissions by both producers and consumers. So why did New Zealand choose emissions trading? Well, this has actually been a long and controversial process. Back in the 1990s, New Zealand first recognized that pricing emissions can help prevent dangerous levels of climate change. New Zealand originally planned a carbon tax on energy and industry, but it lost political support in 2005, partly because of its narrow focus. In contrast to a carbon tax, an ETS places a limit on emissions and allows the market to set a price in line with our emission reduction targets, and then this price can change behavior. So that alignment of an ETS with targets and with letting the market set the price was appealing to government. An ETS offers also more flexibility in how participants comply, and that was appealing to business. I wanted to provide some context for our system so you can understand the choices that we've made. This shows our gross emissions excluding forestry in 2018. And you can see that agriculture contributes 48% of our gross emissions on a CO2 equivalent basis. The energy sector contributes 40%. This is an unusual profile compared to most countries. The industrial process and waste sectors are minor contributors. Now in New Zealand, we already have over 80% renewable electricity. So in the energy sector, our mitigation options are focused on transport and industrial process heat. Forestry also plays a really important part in our emissions profile. In 2018, net removals from land use change, and forestry offset 30% of the gross emissions from other sectors. So here's an overview of our key design features. First, the scope. Our ETS was the first system in the world that was designed to cover all sectors of the economy. However, agriculture has been deferred to date. The system also covers the 6 major greenhouse gases. The unit of trade is the New Zealand unit, or NZU, which is equal to 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. Our system allows unlimited banking of NZUs by participants, but not borrowing from the future. Units are tracked in the New Zealand Emissions Trading Register. Units are allocated for free, earned for removal activities, or from 2021, auctioned by the government. Price management has evolved over time. To reduce price exposure, the government introduced a reduced unit obligation in 2010 to 2018, and a fixed price option from 2010 to 2021. I'll detail these later. This is transitioning to a cost containment reserve and auction reserve price, which will be implemented as part of auctioning from 2021. Offsets are limited. This is because our ETS already has a broad scope and there would be double counting with coverage of the ETS. However, we have had offset units from the Permanent Forest Sink Initiative, which sat outside of the ETS. This will be discontinued and will be merging into the ETS in 2023. We've also had a small amount of units from other carbon tax era mechanisms, but they're not material at this point. Our system was linked to the overseas Kyoto market from 2008 to mid-2015. The current market is domestic only. Linking had a major impact on supply in our market and was responsible for setting our price while we were linked. Finally, non-compliance can carry civil and/or criminal penalties. The failure to surrender units has a make good requirement plus a cash penalty. So while our system was designed to cover all sectors of the economy, the government recognized that different sectors had different levels of capacity to participate in emissions trading. So we introduced sectors in stages. The first sector to enter was the forestry sector, which came in 2008. Unlike most systems, our system applies a liability for deforestation emissions, as well as the opportunity to earn units for removals from afforestation. So we cover both afforestation and deforestation. There was urgency to bring forestry into the system because deforestation was accelerating, and we wanted to send a clear investment signal for new planting. In mid-2010, our major emitters entered the system. This was our fuels for stationary energy and transport and our industrial processes. It's interesting to note that our transport coverage includes domestic aviation and shipping fuels. In 2013, we had the synthetic greenhouse gases enter and the waste sector, which covers landfill waste. For synthetic greenhouse gases, some of those are actually covered out under a separate levy. This is the synthetic greenhouse gases contained in imported goods like cars or refrigerators. Now, the agriculture sector has not taken on unit obligations to date, although it is currently reporting emissions. The government has announced its intention that by 2025, emission pricing will apply to emissions from livestock and fertilizer. The government has not yet confirmed if this will be inside or outside the ETS. But the expectation is that by 2025, all of our economy will face an emission price. Our approach to free allocation has had two rationales and two methodologies. For our pre-1990 forestry participants and fishing sector people, the government decided to provide a fixed amount of free allocation to help provide compensation for reduced asset value as a result of emission trading. This was a one-off provision and is not continuing today. For our emissions-intensive and trade-exposed industries, the government provides output-based free allocation to prevent emissions leakage to jurisdictions that don't have comparable level of emissions pricing. An output-based approach would also apply to agriculture once unit obligations apply. The government decided at the outset that power generation and domestic transport would not be eligible for free allocation because they can pass the prices on downstream and they are not trade exposed. This diagram shows the government's current cap structure, which it's planning for 2021 to 2025. So this again is the first time we will have had a cap in our system. The bottom band shows our emissions outside of the emissions trading scheme. This is mostly agriculture. The orange band shows free allocation projections. The turquoise band shows the remaining auction volume. And the gray band shows a gap that the government expects to be met by stockpiled units that have been banked by participants. This cap structure is designed to align with a provisional emissions budget that puts the government on track toward its 2050 emission reduction target established under the Zero Carbon Act at the end of 2019. Now, the Climate Change Commission will be providing advice to the government on that pathway to the 2050 target, so it's possible that this picture will change once the Climate Change Commission has issued its advice. It's interesting to note that the projected volume of free allocation is about half the size of the remaining auction volume over this period. In terms of price management, the government initially implemented two price management mechanisms during the time of the global financial crisis to try to reduce the impact on participants. The first was a fixed price option of New Zealand $25 per ton, so participants could pay that amount instead of surrendering units. The government also implemented a reduced unit obligation for non-forestry sectors. This reduced the obligation to 1 unit per 2 tons of emissions. It cut the obligation in half. This was phased out over 2017 to 2018. Now, the government has decided in 2021, it will allow participants to use a fixed price option, but at a higher price of $35 a ton. So that will cover surrenders with regard to 2020 emissions. After that, the fixed price option will be discontinued, assuming that auctioning has started. Then in 2021, we will see the commencement of auctioning, and through the auction, we will have a cost containment reserve and an auction reserve price. This diagram from the government shows how that will work, and I'll start with the cost containment reserve. That's the orange line on top. If prices at auction hit that trigger price, then the government will release additional volume into the market to help moderate emission prices. The cost containment reserve trigger price will start at $50 per ton in 2021 and increase 2% a year for inflation. The auction reserve price is the minimum price at which the government will sell units into the market. That is going to start at $20 per ton in 2021 and also increase 2% per year for inflation. Now, it's important to note that this mechanism affects the auctioning prices. It does not affect prices in the secondary market. So it is possible that participants will be able to trade units below the auction reserve price or above the cost containment reserve price. So there will be feedbacks between the two, but this cost containment mechanism does not control prices in the secondary market. In terms of institutional support, the Minister for Climate Change and the Minister of Finance hold the key decision-making authority under the Climate Change Response Act 2002, which is the enabling legislation for the ETS. Beyond that, the responsibilities are spread across government departments, and this is for two reasons. The first is to share the workload. The second is to provide greater transparency and accountability, a system of checks and balances. The Ministry for the Environment covers policy design and legislation. The Ministry for Primary Industries administers forestry and agriculture, and the Environmental Protection Authority manages the rest of the administrative functions, including the New Zealand Emissions Trading Register. This diagram shows the government's most recent emission projections through 2035 for gross emissions only, so this excludes forestry. Now, it's important to note this predates the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, but it still provides interesting insights into the operation of our emissions trading system. So there are two things I want to draw your attention to. First, this is the period over which our ETS has been in operation. And what this chart shows and what independent research has verified is that the ETS has had very little or no impact on gross emissions over the period of operation. This is because the prices have been very, very low, largely under the influence of the full linkage to the international Kyoto market and the lingering effects from that. And here I've roughly drawn in our 2030 NDC, and you can see the size of the gap between our projected emissions with additional measures even, and our NDC. Now, forestry can help bridge some of that gap, but there will still be a gap that needs to be met through purchasing overseas units. That's most likely to happen through government-to-government transactions under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. So we're expecting a different future, and we're going to need a different future from what we've had in the past in order to meet our ambitious targets. First, future NZETS unit supply and emission prices will be managed domestically in line with our targets. Second, biogenic emissions from agriculture will be priced from 2025 inside or outside the NZETS. Third, new cost containment reserve and auction reserve price mechanisms will guard against extreme prices. And finally, the New Zealand government will likely need overseas units to bridge the gap with meeting the 2030 NDC. I want to leave you with a few key messages. The first is that ETS design needs to reflect each jurisdiction's unique goals and circumstances. One size does not fit all. Secondly, an ETS will evolve over time as lessons are learned and as the goals change. And learning by doing is valuable. Finally, effective ETS design will not deliver results unless there is political, business, and public support for ambitious emission reductions. And that has been the circumstance in New Zealand We've had effective architecture, but it has not been paired with ambition to reduce emissions. This is changing in the outlook for the future. Motu has produced extensive resources on the emissions trading scheme, and I encourage you to check out our website and to get in touch to continue this conversation. My contact information is provided here in the presentation. And I will leave you with some more detailed background information about Motu. I want to wish you all of the best with your emissions trading journey. Kia kaha.